Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse weekend warm-up. It's bigz, it's Grindberg, it's Schultzy. It's the Dynasty Pulse weekend warm-up. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing awesome, man. How are you?
Fantastical. How about you, Schultzy?
Doing well.
Yay!
Doing pretty good.
Hey, yeah, pretty good.
Hooray!
Questionable.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse on the Undroppables Network on Fantasy Football Plus as well, with bigz, Grindberg, and Schultzy. No guest this week, but that can change with a snap of a finger. All I have to do is snap my fingers, and we have a guest. But that's not going to happen this week. We got Dynasty stock, Dynasty stock up, Dynasty stock down. We got starts and sits. We got an intro and an outro. But let's kick it off with Grindberg with the news.
Yeah, okay. Let's get this show going with the news. We've had a lot of shit happening in the last 24 hours. Even this last week has been pretty crazy what has gone down. We had injury apocalypse, as of we said last week. Remember, bigz? It was just crazy coming down the hill, and it still hasn't stopped. So let's kind of get into the injuries here. We had Pacheco go down. What's your thoughts on this backfield there, bigz? We had I know in one of our shows earlier today, you were talking about Carson Steele here. What's your long-term thoughts, on the replacement here for Pacheco while he's away? Is Steele the deal?
As far as I know, just kind of like looking at profiles, Samaje Perine is more of a satellite back. They don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire to kick around anymore. Carson Steele is closer to the Isaiah Pacheco profile. So as far as we know, unless we otherwise figure something out this weekend, it's the Carson Steele show in that backfield.
Yeah, I mean, and they brought in Kareem Hunt. I'm not too concerned about that. I think that after what we saw last year and the year before, he seems like he's kind of on the latter end of his career. Maybe a guy that maybe if Steele does produce more fumbles with ball security, they may look at a guy with veteran presence. But as far as where we saw Steele fold in here, I think you're right there. Now, what about Cooper Kupp here? He's in a situation here where he wasn't placed on IR. Do you think that's something that they're just holding their breath on him coming back a little bit sooner, or is that something that you think that he's going to be missing some significant time here?
Well, the short-term IR is a stint that has to be 4 weeks. So they obviously think in their brains that he can be back after 2 or 3. So I'm not shuttling off of my Kupp shares. I'm not high on him either. But like he's seen his value diminish quite a bit over the last couple of years due to injuries and age and all that stuff in Dynasty. So I think it affects the real life Rams a whole lot more than it affects anybody's fantasy teams, because usually when you have a guy who's kind of the age and injury history of a Cooper Kupp, the savvy players have kind of a trap door. They've got somebody that they're handcuffing with. They've got somebody who's another guy that's in mind. Maybe they drafted somebody ahead of Cooper Kupp, or they drafted somebody a couple rounds behind that they knew could step right in if they needed it. I don't think anybody who is a Cooper Kupp owner is like freaking out right now because they just lost Kupp. I don't think he's at that place in his career anymore. So but hey, if you were smart enough to go grab Jordan Whittington or Demarcus Robinson or Ty Johnson off your waiver wire, you could do worse.
Absolutely. And Schultzy, what's your take on that situation there? Are you looking at that Rams offense as a one that you're looking at attacking? Getting one of these guys that are floating around the waiver wire at this stage, like with Puka on the IR and Kupp potentially being gone for a little bit longer than most people expect here. What's your take on that wide receiver room?
Only if I'm desperate, man. I mean, Matt Stafford hasn't looked like super great this year, and I just, yeah, without the two guys, the two main dudes there, I'm a little worried about the production of the other, the next three guys, Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, and then Whittington. I just don't see any one of those dudes stepping up and actually filling in numbers like you're gonna want. One of them might pop a week or two here or there, but yeah, I'm not adding any of them expecting much. I'm doing it because I need to.
Yeah. Okay.
I mostly
Now, what
agree,
about
except that Jordan
yeah?
Whittington does kind of fit the Sean McVay, Puka Nakua profile. So if there's anybody who I think is, I mean, Demarcus Robinson may lead in targets just because he's the savvy veteran, but I think if anybody in that lineup is going to pop, it's going to be Whittington.
I
Yeah.
agree on that.
Yeah, he's gonna fit right in that Cooper Cup role. So yeah, I would say that he would be the guy there. Debo Samuel here, guys. I mean, this 49er situation is just an evolving situation. Every year it seems like they have to have a guy come in, plug and play situation. Jordan Mason is, coming in here right now. He's playing pretty great behind Brock Purdy there. And without McCaffrey here now, Debo, another aspect that is taken out of that run game. Jordan Mason has got to be looking really solid in this next stretch of games. But as far as the replacement for Debo here, do you think it's a Ayuk week or like I have him as a start of the week for me, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I think it's a Ayuk week. But what about some secondary guys? I know that Pearsall is on the IR. Well, he's not on the IR; he's banged up. But Cowing, I know that you're pretty high on Jacob Cowing. Biggs, tell me a little bit about him and what you might see from that 49er offense if he has that opportunity.
He's a little guy. He's
Yeah,
a very tiny human, but he's got incredible slot route ability. Um, if he gets a chance, he could be a really, really good safety valve for Brock Purdy. I think it's going to be the Jordan Mason, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk show. And the thing about that 49ers offense is that it's not player dependent, it's scheme dependent. So just like with Jordan Mason plug and play for CMC, you got Jordan Mason as my RB1 for the week in my weekly rankings. Um, Brandon Ayuk definitely gets a bump with when Debo Samuel's on the field. And you know me, like we've been doing shows long enough. You've seen where I stand on Debo Samuel. I've never been a big buyer of Debo Samuel, and I don't think I own him anywhere at this point. So you have everybody has those guys that are just kind of like do not touch, and he's one of mine. So it doesn't really ever affect me when he deals with the constant injuries that he deals with. So yeah, I think Ayuk is a smash. He's the one that I would roster anyway. And then I think Jacob Cowing is a sneaky play, especially in deep leagues, because he can separate and get open, and that's essential in this 49ers offense.
absolutely. Now let's go into this one because you had a hint like a kindling when this first came about when you saw that injury happen on the field there, Biggs. That Jordan Love injury, you weren't too concerned about it being a long-term thing based off of what you saw there. Now he's looking like he might have a pretty good shot at playing this week. What's your take on this situation? Obviously, the Packers may not be in a huge rush to bring him back, considering Malik Willis didn't look horrible last week. Actually, looked pretty good. In what we thought he would come in looking like. You know what I mean? He didn't look as bad as what most people thought. So, Jordan Love, is he going to be playing this week? And if he does, what are we expecting out of the pass catchers there? Are they back to the status where they were ahead of the game, or is that what, what's your thoughts?
That's kind of a two-edged thing. Yeah, they're back, but Jaden Reed is questionable. He's banged
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the Tennessee pass defense is pretty good. They're like fourth or fifth ranked against in allowing passing yards. So I mean, if it's Malik, it's sit all Packers wide receivers. If it's Jordan Love, then I feel like you go with Reed, go with Watson, I Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs. I think they're kind of equal. But yeah, Jordan Love, I was not uh, scared at all that he was going to miss a whole lot of time. In fact, on our FSAN injury show with Marcus Gailey, I'm pretty sure I said he was going to miss one full week and then come back. He's missed one full week, and it looks like he's had 2 practices so far this week, and he's gonna be playing.
Yeah, well, there you go. So yeah, I like that situation. Obviously, fantasy managers who, are highly invested in Jordan Love are excited to get him back, and yeah, it'll be good. Even though this week may not be the week to start him if he does play, but yeah, it's definitely some good news on that front. Now, not so good news is the Tua Tagovailoa situation where, he's faced, his third concussion and in 24 months. Not a great situation to think about it. Now, Skylar Thompson coming in, more of a game manager. Not sure this is very good news for any of these pass catchers in that you have to probably bump them down a tier or two here, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Easily.
Yeah. So where are we ranking like Tyreek this week? Are we headed into like, is he still a top 12 wide receiver? You guys got him outside of your top 12 this week.
Well, let me check.
There you go.
I'm at 24.
Wow. Okay. So you think it's that desolate out there for Tyreek and that whole offense?
I don't know. There's not enough of a book on Skylar Thompson to make an educated guess. So you kind of have to think that going up against Seattle's pass defense, they're going to have somebody on Tyreek who's very good. Reek is there. Seattle has a pretty good pass defense. I don't think that Skylar Thompson is going to have a huge day, which means that Tyreek Hill won't have a huge day. The efficiency of Devon Achan may be enough, but you saw what Tyreek did last week, which wasn't much. So, judging by last week, 24 for Tyreek is pretty generous.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Like, I mean, what's your suggestion for fantasy managers right now with Tyreek Hill in their lineup? Do you hold? Do you try and get rid of him? Like, do you try and trade him off with his name notoriety? And like, say if it's a redraft league, I know we're talking dynasty, but this is like, a lot of people are kind of off of Tyreek in dynasty or have already moved off. Those are the ones that are riding him out till he's done. But for redraft here, what are we doing with him?
In redraft, I'm going to hang on to him just to see if the Miami Dolphins are crazy enough to bring back Tua Tagovailoa, or to see like what he winds up putting together with Skylar Thompson. In Dynasty, you kind of have to think that his value is pretty low right now, especially given his age and the fact that Tua's out and we don't know what Skylar Thompson is going to bring to the table. So what I would do is kind of hold until maybe he has a 20-point week, and then like try and see what you can get for him. Right now is a pretty good time to be stacking draft picks in the dynasty calendar. So given that his value is kind of at a low, I would wait maybe a week or two and see if he can do something. If he can't, you might be stuck. But yeah, like just hope for the best and then get out from under him while you can.
Okay, so let's move on to another story here, and that's Dalton Kincaid. Fantasy managers who drafted him as a potential tight end one are now facing a tough reality after being hyped up as a top tight end headed into this season. And we know his draft capital last year. A lot of people had him pegged over Laporta. and his usage so far has been underwhelming, despite some early optimism when he returned from a concussion evaluation. His role in the offense has been seriously limited. In week 2, Kincaid only played 19 snaps compared to Dawson Knox 24, and he was on the field for just 15 passing plays. This limited involvement is a major red flag. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Kincaid's overall dynasty outlook now? Are you panicking on him? Are you worried about a situation? He had a decent target share last week, so he's on the field when they're looking for him, but hasn't turned into fantasy points yet. So I'll start with you, Biggs, and then Schultzy will move on to you about what your guys' situation is, what your thoughts on Kincaid and his value right now, because I'm scrambling right now, especially with the emergence of Brock Bowers. I'm really liking what I see in him.
I feel like Kincaid is still top 10. You kind of have to look at it in terms of
Mhm.
like overall value, or overall talent level. So looking at the guys outside of the top 10, you got Dalton Schultz, Isaiah Likely, who's kind of an unknown factor at this point, Hunter Henry, who uh, he's somewhat reliable when he's healthy. Jonnu Smith is kind of like he could do something, but now he's got Skylar Thompson. Zach Ertz, uh, like looks to have somewhat of a career resurgence. But so, I mean, Pat Fryermuth, Jatavian Sanders, Mike Gesicki, Colby Parkinson, Cole Kmet, Noah Fant. None of those guys is really moving the needle for me, and that's with Kincaid at number 10. Looking above in the top 9 ahead of him, I like all of those guys that are sitting there better. Um, that's not to say that Kincaid can't finish with top 10, like higher weeks than number 10. But we're 2 weeks into the season, and at this point, it doesn't look like he's the focus of their offense. So we'll see what happens. He's definitely a hold based on talent alone.
Yeah, and you got to think that can James Cook sustain his workload right now, being a small back the way he is? He's not meant to be a true workout horseback, and he's gained a lot of touches in the red zone. So maybe that changes if an injury happens. Schultze, what are your thoughts on Kincaid?
I'm definitely concerned. I'm not panicked yet, but definitely concerned. The Dolphins game, Dolphins have shown you can run on them. Bills showed that they could really run on them, and I think the snap count and stuff this past week can be dismissed a little bit due to the game script, and I think you can knock some worry away from that because of that. But yeah, there's definitely still some concerns here because he was being drafted and expected to be the leading target getter of this offense by a lot of people.
Yep.
And it's not even been close to that. So yes, definite real concern.
I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you, Schultze, since I have him ranked in my weekly rankings at tight end 10. He's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars this weekend, and Jacksonville is they've given up quite a bit in the passing game, although not to tight ends. I think
I say
they're
it's not been tight ends this year,
right. They're
but they
ranked.
also haven't played good tight ends. So they played Miami week 1, and Johnny Smith. I mean, he doesn't get much work. And then last week it was Cleveland, and Njoku was out, and Jordan Akins only saw like 1 or 2 targets. So
That's what I was going to ask. They're fourth at this point in fantasy points allowed to tight ends, um, or like ranked fourth. But all of the fantasy points in the passing game are coming. They're 26th against quarterbacks and wide receivers.
mhm.
So, do we consider Kincaid as a wide receiver? And it's just been kind of a small sample size. They haven't really played against a Dalton Kincaid type, and maybe he's in for an okay game.
Oh, I'm still playing him this week against the Jags. Like the Jags linebackers have been solid this year so far, so that's definitely like part of the reason. But the talent of the tight ends they've played is also a big reason.
Yeah, context is important.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. All right, let's move on to a couple of quarterbacks that are rookies that are kind of struggling out of the gate here. Caleb Williams not finding his footing in Chicago right now to start the year. His fantasy outlook isn't looking so bright at the moment, throwing 2 interceptions against the Texans. He's yet to find the end zone in his first two outings with just 267 passing yards and an accuracy rate of just 56%. Is it safe to say he's falling short of expectations, Biggs?
Whose expectations?
Yeah,
The
exactly. Not
industry's or
yours.
mine?
Yeah, exactly. Because we knew that. That's why that was a loaded question for you. I knew you were going to kind of attack it that way. So yeah, let's break it
Yes,
down there, man.
it's safe to say that he's coming up short of expectations. I mean, he's learning. He's making strides. Apparently, there's some things as far as like getting rid of the ball that he's made improvements with and stuff. This is not the week for him to have a breakout going up against Indy's pass defense. They are pretty damn good against quarterbacks. They're damn good against wide receivers, and they tend to funnel to the run game. So I'm not looking for it this week, but get Keenan healthy and get DeAndre Swift a game that requires people to start being scared of him and game planning for him. That'll kind of open up the offense for Caleb. Let him learn. In Dynasty, I see him and Jaden Daniels following kind of a 1 and 2 trajectory with I favor Daniels out of this class, and I think that they're gonna kind of like fit that curve over the course of their careers. It's not that he's not a viable quarterback. It's just, it's not anything that's immediate. It's going to be a work in progress. And, that could come 6 weeks into this season. He's talented. But he's still got a lot to learn and let the game slow down, let him work out his relationships with his wide receivers and everything. And maybe a change of offensive coordinator someday with Shane Waldron leaving. might
Yeah,
might help too.
yeah.
Uh, I want to say that Caleb Williams has the lowest average target depth among
Yes.
quarterbacks.
Yikes.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, well, another guy that hasn't looked great at all, and I think it has a lot to do with the offense around him, and that's Bo Nix. What a rough start he's had to his career. He's having a tough time adjusting to the NFL, and his performance against the Steelers highlighted his struggles. In a lackluster outing, he completed just 20 of 35 passes, 246 yards, failed to throw a single touchdown, but tossed 2 interceptions. That offense in general looks like it's in having some issues here. Big start with you, Bo Nix. What are your thoughts on his situation? Obviously, the Denver Broncos are a miss right now, but his long-term situation there. Are you? I know you weren't very high on Bo Nix headed into this season. Is he a sitting duck in Denver, if you will?
Looks like it. I mean, I expected just from the way he played in the preseason. I'm sure everybody expected based on the way he played in the preseason, was hyped coming out of preseason. They scored on every drive, whatever. I thought he was going to at least have a better start, but no touchdowns, 2 interceptions against Pittsburgh. He's not facing a great matchup this week against Tampa Bay. I mean, at a certain point, you have to kind of question his weapons. He doesn't really have a whole lot to choose from. It's a really, really bad Denver team. So if there's going to be a breakout, it's going to come way later. Bo Nix is
Yeah.
not good.
Fair. All right, guys. Let's get into our dynasty stock up, stock down segment where we're going to get into guys that we think, after this last week that, either rose stock in dynasty or went down. So, Schultzy, let's start with you with your stock up.
First stock up for me is Derek Carr. This one's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm honestly surprised when I came to the sheet, neither of you had listed him. Look,
I'm
this
just
Saints
so
offense.
tired of of doing my victory laps that
So you're so tired of being right. God, it just sucks.
about Derek Carr specifically. I'm not saying in general. I'm saying about him. It just like when you do 6 shows a week and you're talking up the same guy the whole like every single show. I wanted to change it up a little bit.
You gotta branch out. But yeah, dude, there's absolute resurgence right now under Clint Kubiak. I almost said Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah,
The double K boys.
The double
the
K
same.
boys.
So with Clint Kubiak coming in, the offense is just tearing it up. We had the week 1 shock. Week 1's weird. Who'd they play week 1 again?
Carolina.
Oh yeah, and so it was like it's the Panthers, okay, and like let's see. But
And he
then
only
they
had
followed it
200
right back.
yards. He only threw
Right.
for 200 yards, but 3 touchdowns.
Came back this week, just waxed the shit out of the Cowboys. Looks for real, and compared to where he got drafted in startups, if you just drafted startups this offseason, smashing value on that right now.
Yeah, the Saints last year I think were last in play action and motion plays in the passing game, and this year they're one of the leaders, and that absolutely opens things up for Carr. He's great asset right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Biggs, let's get into you. What do you got as your stock up?
Well, this is not like a love-hate segment. This is not a subjective thing, like whether I like a player or not, but objectively looking at whose stock is up right now, it's Quentin Johnston. As long as Justin Herbert is healthy and on the field, which is still a question for this week, Quentin Johnston's route tree has changed from last year. He's no longer trying to catch deep balls down the field. Something that Greg Roman has done is bring Quentin Johnston back towards the quarterback so that he doesn't have to track the ball. It's just right there for him, and he's making the plays to the point where last week he had a better game than good old Lad McConkey, much to my chagrin. But you have to think that he's only in his second year, and if you can find an offensive coordinator like Greg Roman to unlock a guy like Quentin Johnston, his stock is definitely up.
Yeah, I mean they invested first round draft capital on him, so they're obviously not going to give up on him after one season. And yeah, I guess Jim Harbaugh is the way that he's going to make something out of it. So good on Quentin Johnston, and hopefully he can keep it up because there's a lot of people that dumped his stock and got some value here now. So all right,
Mike,
my stock.
This stock up and stock down segment, that was a pretty good idea. Your stock is up in my book. Who do you got?
Thanks. I appreciate you, man.
You're welcome.
My stock up is Jaxon Smith-Njigba after quickly establishing himself last week as a must-have asset in fantasy football and in Dynasty. He had a great week 2 where he set a career high in targets, 16 targets. What a game he had. I love the connection he has been building with Geno Smith. And another key factor is them bringing in Ryan Grubb, and it's making it clear he's been integrated JSN. I don't think he's going to see 16 targets every game, especially when Kenneth Walker does come back. But this is a very, very optimistic view here. We know that JSN started last year slow. He had that injury headed into the season, that happened in training camp. So when rookies injure themselves in training camp, it puts them at a really big disadvantage headed into the season. And with the change of the guard, I see a really good situation here for JSN. I'm buying into him. I have him ranked now currently ahead of Zay Flowers, which is kind of bold at this stage, I think. And yeah, let's go JSN. Year 2 breakout here.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about White Sox minor league outfielder Kanan Smith-Njigba's brother?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. Way to make your own name for yourself.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, stock down, Schultzy. Who do you got?
Okay, for me, sorry, bigz, it's Zamir White.
Oh no.
I was very high on him, and it was because of volume. Volume is king with running backs, and with Antonio Pierce at the helm down the stretch last year, it was just volume, volume, volume for Zamir White. And everything Pierce talked about, how he wants to play football, is just like screaming, I'm going to give this dude a bazillion touches and we're going to run it back. Um, he has 21 carries so far in 2 games and is averaging like 3 yards a carry right around there. He's I think he got out snapped week 1 by Alexander Madison. I might be wrong by that, but it was
Nope.
at least close.
He did not. He was
He did not?
out-yarded, I think.
Oh, okay. Regardless, Alexander Madison is making an appearance here. This is not good for Zamir White.
No, and I do want to point out a couple things. Number one, the offensive line is down bad right now. Jackson Powers-Johnson, who's an integral part of the plan moving forward, is coming back. He's going to make his debut this week. Colton Miller has been hurt, and they've been trying to like shuffle guys around. So at some point this season, this offensive line is going to gel. The other thing is that defenses have been pretty focused on Gardner Minshew. You saw it in the Los Angeles Chargers game. Although he was able to spread the ball around, and he's the only quarterback in the NFL so far that has 250 plus yards both weeks of this season, surprising the shit out of me, including a huge game against Baltimore. But the game script has gone, try and run the ball, get stuff, try and run the ball, get stuff, try and run the ball, get stuff, be behind. All right, let's open up the offense. And I think as this offense starts to gel, Luke Getsy learning what he's got to work with, etc., Zamir White being with his stock down right now, perfect time to buy.
Yeah, I think that this situation is kind of very hazy at this stage. I think Zamir White's going to have a good game this week. I think he's poised to have a good game this week. They're in a good situation, like Big said on another show. They're in a trap game against the Panthers, and this could go ugly. But I just honestly think that this is his game, and if this week will be the telling week for Zamir White, I think I think this will be a very good indicator if Schultzy's right, or if there's some hope here. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's his stock did go down, but I'm not giving up hope. But yeah, it definitely did plummet a bit there. All right,
Yeah,
Biggs.
I'm not giving up hope either, but I'm in the boat of people who drafted him, decently high. So like we're down bad right now.
Yes.
Yeah, RB2s, like he's definitely a guy that you were thinking, especially when you were punting running back. You're really hoping that he would be a guy that would hit.
Absolutely.
All right. Stock down, Biggs. Who's your
my stock down is it's pretty broad. It's old veteran running backs.
Pretty broad?
Joe Mixon is struggling. We've got Aaron Jones at RB19, Derek Henry's at RB20. When has Derek Henry had weeks of RB31 and RB14 consecutively? When you start getting out of the top 24 running backs, you start looking at Ezekiel Elliott, Zach Moss, Alexander Madison, Devin Singletary, Josh Jacobs is right at RB24. Jonathan Taylor's at RB23. Antonio Gibson's in the 40s. So is Chuba. Gus Edwards at 47. It's not a good time right now for old veteran running backs.
Yeah, and it's fair. So in general, you're going stock down on the veterans, and it makes sense. But you got a couple of guys here that. What's your thought on Alvin Kamara moving forward? Are you a guy that's going to be selling him then, Biggs? Are you, especially after the way he stormed the gate here, are you thinking he's going to continue this complete tear that he's on?
It depends on your build. Right now is a perfect time to, if you assess your team and you look like you're still kind of in rebuild mode, get rid of him and stack those draft picks. You can probably get
Hmm.
some pretty good draft stock at this point in the season with an asset who's playing out of his mind right now, like RB1 Alvin Kamara. Um, Although, to be fair, I did have him as RB5 for the season. If you think back to our FFAN bold predictions
Hmm.
show, so if you're a contending team, you ride him as long as you can. It's always in Dynasty. It's always better to be out on a guy a year early than a year late. I've been saying that about Kamara for the last 3 years. So at some point the end is going to come, but when he keeps going out and producing like he is, kind of what Derrick Henry did up until this year, and you don't know if Derrick Henry is going to have games that are resurgent. It's just it I would not sell Alvin Kamara off of a contending team at this point. But if you are rebuilding, take advantage of his stock right now.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Biggs, what's better, being 3 weeks early or 1 week, or 3 years early or 1 year late?
uh, I'm 3 years early on so many guys.
Tr-
It's better to be out three years a year late.
All right. All right. I'm gonna get to mine, and it's gonna be a 2 word,
Oh, so
self-explanatory.
this is a cop out.
Bryce Young.
All right, and
Okay,
that's gonna
moving
do it
on.
for the stock up and
Back up, stock
stock down
down.
segment. Um,
All right. Yeah, totally. Let's get into some starts and sits.
Sounds good.
All right. Who wants to start it off?
Me, because I'm first
Rich.
on the sheet.
Yeah,
There you
it's
go.
true.
Schultzy's starts your mom. Start one. Chris Godwin. Um, Now, if you've been watching this program, one time I talked about Chris Godwin, and I liked him. I like it. Um, Say he's going back to the slot. He's going to kick ass again. And you know what? He's kicking more ass than I thought he was gonna. He's already off to a monster start to the season, and now this week it's the Broncos. Obviously, Mike Evans is your big competition for like who's going to kind of have the blow up game. He's going to go against Pat Surtain, who is one of the top three, like I would say, undoubtedly corners in the league at this point. And he's not going to go to the slot with Evans, or I mean with Godwin. So the Broncos have not been good. And I think, or God, I keep saying Evans, but I think Godwin is going to absolutely smash him this week.
Yeah.
Looking
I
at things
mean,
a little bit differently, the Denver Broncos are second in pass defense, um, and again, there's context involved. They are also first in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers. The context for that, of course, is the fact that last week they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the week before that they played the Seattle Seahawks. So they've gone up against Kenneth Walker, Najee, and Jalen, and not forced teams to pass much, which is going to be more of the same with this Tampa Bay offense. It's going to be the Rashad White not tank, Bucky Irving show this week, and so I'm kind of leaning towards fading all of the Tampa Bay wide receivers, but Chris Godwin's stock definitely up.
I love Chris Godwin. He's been lights out, and yeah, I mean that slot role's been good, and yeah, we'll see if he's a start of the week. I mean, he's definitely 100% playable. You gotta start him in every league. May not be the best matchup, but we'll see what happens there. What do you got there, Biggs, as your start of the week here?
My first start of the week is Schultzy's mom. Um, No, my start of the week is Jordan Mason. San Francisco 49ers are playing the Rams, who give up 33 yards more against the run than average. And then looking a little bit deeper, they are 28th. They give up the 28th most points against the run. And I have Jordan Mason in my Fantasy Pros ranks as RB1 for the week. I've already had offers for him, and like people trying to like send him to me. If you look at trade aggregators, he's the number one traded running back in all of Dynasty right now over the last 30 days. His value's through the roof. So now is not the time to go try and buy. But if you do have shares and you're holding on to him, he's about to have a bunch of smash weeks for you, and he's a pretty good asset. Wait for CMC to come back and then unload it.
Unload. Nice one. All right, my start of the week is Brandon Ayuk, and with Debo not in.
Read it.
Read what? Oh wait, hold on a second here. My start of the shit. That was a
come on, man.
Schultzy's mom is my start of the week, and I put it in the
dad.
Dad.
Come on, man.
Well played, Schultzy. All right, who's your start of the week, Mike?
Schultzy's dad.
He's going off this week. Watch out.
I had a couple last night when I put that in the show sheet and forgot I put it in there. And I didn't even read it. So anyways, I'm going to talk about Brandon Ayuk. I think he's just primed for a good performance this week. He's my top start because he's got a matchup against the Rams, and it's just a great matchup. The Rams are struggling to contain speedy wide receivers lining up on the outside. In his first 2 weeks of the season, the Rams have allowed a staggering 342 yards, 4 touchdowns to outside receivers, according to the Next Gen Stats. With Ayuk running 91% of his routes from the outside, this is a golden opportunity for him to exploit a clear weakness in the Rams secondary that is banged up already. So this further illustrates how important it is to get Ayuk in your lineup. Deebo Samuel not playing, Christian McCaffrey not playing. So it just opens up this situation where Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Jordan Mason are going to be smash plays. And let's go on the 49ers 3 here.
Yeah. They gotta.
They gotta. All right, let's get to the sits of the week. Schultzy, who's your number one?
It's Will Levis.
Garrett Wilson with a touchdown.
God, you talking about Grindberg interrupting earlier.
I had breaking
Will
news.
Levis.
Breaking news. We were just talking about Garrett Wilson, and I said he's gonna get a touchdown, and he did.
So, anyways, guy got me all messed up. Will Levis. He's played 2 good defenses against the Bears and the Jets, and he has 15.68 points and 23.48 points. So pretty solid. A lot of people were here for a Will Levis, not resurgence, but like a breakout, I guess. And one of the reasons is just like he's a gunslinger, and Brian Callahan's offense is probably going to throw it a lot, but his completion percentage has not been super great. He has not topped 200 yards yet. He's thrown for 1 touchdown in either game, and both of them were garbage throws, like deep to the end zone, that he just got incredibly lucky that like Ridley made a crazy play this past week. Week 1 against the Bears, I don't remember who caught it, but it was into like triple coverage, and it was just a terrible decision. So his 2 touchdowns are super fluky. Packers this week, they gave Jalen Hurts some trouble week 1, and the Eagles, and then Anthony Richardson couldn't do shit through the air against them. So yeah, I think Will Levis is not in for a fun time this week.
He hasn't been for a fun time all year.
He's never gonna have a fun time ever in his career.
All right. Give us your sit, Biggs.
Okay, my sit is going to be Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, the Indianapolis Colts are getting ready to go face a team by the name of the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are second in the league in rush defense. They also are allowing their mid fantasy points for 14th most fantasy points to running backs. It's not going to be a huge game for the running game for Jonathan Taylor. It's going to be it could be a bad game script. But yeah, if I have Jonathan Taylor, I'm sitting him this week. I know it's crazy to say, but I'm doing it.
Bold. And that's what's going to get him into the top 10 this week in the Fantasy Pros Pro Rankers, because he's put in a bold place like that, and that's how you get up there, right, Biggs?
He's going to put up a big showing.
Okay.
No, he won't. All right. I'm going to tell you a guy that's not going to put up a big showing at the running back position.
Hey, Mike,
either.
who's your sit?
It's Javonte Williams. I just really hate the way the Broncos have looked. In week 3, it just might be wise to sit him. Despite last week's usage that saw him take 66% of the snaps and secure 16 touches, head coach Sean Payton leaned heavily on Williams. He only managed just 65 yards in nearly 3/4 of coming out, heavily on him. They leaned on him early and late. So he's recovering from that injury. The context behind this situation is just compounding. The Denver Broncos aren't very good at all on offense. Williams ranks 31st in yards after contact per attempt, indicating he's struggling to create plays on his own. The Buccaneers have shown vulnerability, allowing the 3rd highest explosive run rate and the 8th highest missed tackle rate. These stats might not be enough to inspire confidence in Williams still. I just don't like the situation behind the Broncos, and I don't think they're going to be in a whole lot of scoring situations, and they're going to be playing from behind in this game, which they may be throwing the ball, which could lend well to Javonte Williams, but I've been high on Jaleel McLaughlin, so I think he might have that opportunity this time around.
I'd much rather start him this week than Jesus.
Javonte Williams.
I just went into the Undroppables Twitter chat and I said, because AWL Sabermetrics Dan was asked, he posted a video being confused by how Vegas had the Jets up by with a 6.5 point spread against the Patriots, and he was saying a bunch of good things about the Patriots. So I just went in there and I said, looks like Vegas was right. When do we see Drake May? And then Jacoby Brissett throws one down the field to Mario Douglas.
Classic.
Yeah, perfect timing. And now
great
Austin
timing.
Hooper with a breakout 20-yard scamper. Jesus. Okay.
I think that's our sign.
I did that for Patriots fans. You're welcome.
Yeah. You summoned the demon. They didn't want to see Drake May, so bigz made it so. I love it. Fantasy football, bigz, we hate it and love it all at the same time.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The Alan Lazard,
Alan
game.
Lazard leading this game off with a touchdown just kind of got under my skin a little bit.
Oh God, I love it. All
of a
right,
sudden,
guys.
Jacoby Brissett is fucking Hall of Famer. What is happening?
I love it. All right. Well, that's it for us on the Dynasty Pulse Week 3 weekend warm-up. I love it, guys. Let's keep rocking this stuff out. I love the stock up, stock down segment. I think it's gone really well, and let's keep it up, boys.
You know what, Mike? You've gone really well.
Appreciate it.
Nice.
Send us home there, big guy.
Bye. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, subscribe, share. Whether you're on Fantasy Football Plus or Twitter or not Undroppables. Thanks for letting us hit 1,000 subscribers. Look for new uncovered shows from all of us this week or next week. Plus, we're onboarding a Chargers guy.
Yeah.
Hit the bell so you get notified whenever there's new episodes. Follow me on Twitter at BigBonedFFB. Grindberg, it's down there at FFCanuck99, and Schultzy is SCHU1TZY. And have a great weekend, you guys. Enjoy your games, and we hope you win.
Hope you win. Peace.
Hope you win.